Hello and welcome to a new series where I'm going to be taking you through my dim vault and show you everything I have inside of dim. In the future, maybe I'll take you through my inventory. I've got about 350 items in there, so I've managed to keep it quite clean, but you can see I've got a few duplicates of some random stuff, so that might be some fun idea a bit later on. But today I wanted to go through my loadouts. As you can see, I have quite a few set up here. Some of these are quite old, some of these are fairly new, but maybe it would be fun to show you what I run and what loadouts I have saved both in-game and in dim. I'm a Titan main, if you couldn't tell with the power levels there, and so maybe we'll start with the Titan because it's what I know best, and then we can see where this series goes. So we'll just crack straight on, starting from the top. I have everything kind of organized anyway, so I'll just do the arc ones to start with. So I have the classic Heart of Inmost Light Arc Titan. This is quite an old one. As you can see, it's still using things like Arbalist and Subjunctive as something I replaced. What was it? The Icolos SMG had Volt Shot, but Subjunctive is just better. So if I look at this more specifically, it's basically just a lot of arc. This is the classic slide shot bipod crux, so just a lot of sliding around, lots of arc damage, lots of jolting. This was to break the barrier shields. I don't really use this loadout anymore. You can see the mods are a little bit of resistance, a bit of ammo generation. This is the kind of thing I would run in a GM if I just wanted some very neutral game arc damage and add clear. But as I said, I don't really use this anymore, and that would be one that maybe I would delete. Thunder Crash, if you've been watching the solo dungeon runs, you'll notice that I've actually gone for a Thunder Crash build. This is not the build. I've been using Thunder Crash on Prismatic Titan, so this is actually something that I would probably get rid of as well in favor of the Prismatic Titan. So a lot of these again are quite old, and I don't think I'll even open this one up. It's very, very standard stuff. It's just got some conditional finality, path of least resistance. This was actually back when Double Special was still relatively doable, and now it's a little bit harder. I mean, Trace Rifle makes it fine. And then the hothead, this is my Demolitionist Clown Cartridge hothead, so it's a nice rotation there. You get 2 rockets off, throw a grenade, get another rocket off, so it's a nice quick rocket dump. Then I've got a PvP one. This is Dune March's PvP. I haven't used this in a very long time, and my Adept Shiura's one of the very few times I've managed to go flawless in trials. I'm definitely not a PvP player. I've got a nice dynamic sway kill clip, very nice. That one, it actually shreds. And again, conditional finality. You'll see a lot of these exotics are pretty similar depending on what I'm doing. This is a menace in PvP, and I really like this Solar Scar. It's another one of my. This is actually one of my first Adept. I think it actually is my first Adept weapon, and the roll on it's not great, but the caster frame, I think it really catches people out in PvP. Not many people run swords, let alone caster frames. So I remember the days where Black Talon was a bit of a pain in PvP, and this was my my legendary answer to Black Talon. So I could still run an exotic somewhere else and use a caster frame sword. And the last thing is actually my Reaper for Gambit. So this one I got, there was a Gambit Discord server, and people in there, it was like a Gambit playbook, and people really, really love Gambit in there. And I actually really enjoyed sort of getting into the sort of smaller details of Gambit, and actually having a dedicated build. And with the Synthos Titan, this was just punch everything. You can see that I had a 1-2 punch shotgun, lightweight frame for a bit of speed, and the sniper I used for invading. And where I wasn't invading so much, I would switch to the Forbearance with the chain reaction. So really nice ad clear, lots of punching, and then Parasite and a Thunder Crash for the boss. But this is mainly a Reaper. This is for ad clear, and I do a little bit of invading with it. So the boss damage would come from other members of the team mostly. What's next in the list? Oh, the Prismatic ones. Let's leave Prismatic till last. So I've got solar next. So these are my 2 solar ones. I've got a Pyrogale Titan. The Pyrogale gauntlets are just amazing. I use this with the Crota. If you're doing Crota's End, the sword is great. So I've got the Whirlwind Relentless. It stared back. This is actually from the Leviathan's raid, year 1. So if you're not an older player or you haven't been here that long, you probably won't have this. But this was it was nothing special, and I don't think it ever has been anything special. But it's just got the combo of Whirlwind Relentless, and it happens to be solar. So you can pair it with your solar class and your solar mods, and just really build into your solar there. As you can see on this, I've got 2 solar surges, so you get your Pyrogale off, and then you just go to town with the sword. It's a really nice boss DPS build, and it's still got the, it's got a consecration in there, a bit of Sol Invictus. And if you don't want to use, which I don't actually always use the consecration on this, I use the throwing hammer, and that's some nice ad clear while you're running around that boss encounter. And then I've got the classic Bonk Titan. This is a fantastic build. This is actually what I put together for my first attempt at the solo flawless Vespers host, with the Grand Overture and then switching out to the Laurely Splendor. So this is a very recent build, or rebuild, because I've always had a Bonk Titan, but this is a reprisal of the classic Bonk Titan. Stasis, I've got a Hoarfrost Z build. This is I love this build. I've always loved Stasis Titan, and this has been a staple for me in GMs pre-Prismatic. I would always run a Stasis Titan. Really enjoy this. The Howl of the Storm with the Stasis Wave paired with the Glacier Nade, as well as the Glacier on the class ability. It's just so many crystals, and the ad clear is really cool. I've obviously chopped and changed this around a little bit, in the recent years, so I haven't updated the Wendigo to use my new chill inhibitor. I've got a solar surge mod on despite not having a solar weapon, so there's some tweaks that I might want to go back and make to this one, but I haven't deleted it because this is a real favorite of mine. However, with Prismatic, I am now using a Glacial Quake Prismatic Titan more than this. So you can probably see a pattern where a lot of these have been replaced by a Prismatic counterpart, which outperforms it. The Strand Synthos Titan is more of a movement piece for me. So I've got the grapple on, I've got the other half with Eager Edge, Mountaintop for the movement. So this really is for traversing between encounters, and this is actually one I have saved in-game. So I have this on as an in-game loadout, which I can switch to, which you'll see me do after the second boss the first boss, the second encounter in the dungeon. You'll see me switch over to that for any sort of traversal sections. Helps keep you alive when you're doing some platforming. Then we have Wormgod. Wormgod is a great, it's still fantastic. It's a great Strand Titan build. This is still the solo one phase anything in the game build. You got the tractor cannon, you got the 1-2 punch on the Swordbreaker, and the Wormgod Caress. You build that up to maximum stacks, and it does outperform Synthos, but it is, you need to keep killing stuff to get it to go, whereas Synthos is just a be surrounded. So they're 2 different activation methods, both really dependent on the situation and the encounter, but Wormgod does have a higher damage ceiling. It does enable you to one phase solo a lot of bosses. This one is a really niche build. This is purely for the second encounter, the first boss of Salvation's Edge. That's the one where you go off to the 3 different corners and you come back in and you do your sword DPS. So it's the same sword as I mentioned for the Crota encounter, and I have Still Hunt on this. So the idea is I build up a bit of Banner of War, which helps everyone in the team for their sword damage. I pop the Hazardous Propulsion, get a little bit of damage off with that. You start damage, put a Still Hunt into his head, and then go at him with the sword. Does me well. It's not the highest DPS in the whole team. I do get outperformed by other team members. It's not top tier or anything, but it's definitely a build I enjoy running, and I think that's that says something. You got to run what you find fun. And on that vein, the Void Hoyle Titan, the Heart of Inmost Light Void, is one of my favourite builds to date. It's still one of my favourite builds. This build I put together when Void 3.0 was released in Witch Queen, with this fashion and this shader and everything, and I haven't changed it. I've changed some of the weapons as we go. Obviously, this is a new-ish sniper rifle and Word of Crota since then. But yeah, I use the Frenzy demo, so I don't actually use the... you can get, repulsor destabilizing and have a bit more of a Void explosion style gameplay, but I prefer the, get my grenade back faster and do a bit more damage. This thing is a real workhorse. It is fantastic. And I just, I've got an Edge Transit with my Cascade bait and switch just to keep with the Void theme. But no, this is a fantastic build with the Vortex Grenade, Controlled Demolition, just lots of explosions, lots of, ability energy regen. Yeah, this is one of my favourite builds. This is a relatively new build. As you can see, the Prospector was recently changed and Mask of the Quiet One was recently updated. I really want to like this build and I really want to use this build, but I tried it out and it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't really work for me. I feel like Mask still needs a bit more. Devour is really useful and really, really powerful. I feel like where in the encounters that it matters, you're not killing stuff enough to get Devour. It's only up for 5 seconds, I think. I don't know, I just haven't really felt the benefits of this and I probably should give it more time. But yeah, it's a new build and I put it on a couple of times and I've not really enjoyed it. Onto a couple of PvP ones. So I've got a Armamentarium PvP build. This is a great build and I may even put, some clips of some gameplay. This thing allows for some really fun gameplay. So you've got 2 grenades. I use the Scatter Grenade. You've got Controlled Demolition. And I actually follow up with the Zealot's Reward. And I may actually look for a new one of these from Garden. This is the Under Pressure High Impact. So that's nice. The Rapid Fire struggles a bit with range, but these kind of help a little bit with the charge time and is it charge time? No, it's stability and the damage. But yeah, I may try and get a new one of these. I've really enjoyed using Zealot's Rewards to sort of finish off anyone that's just hit with a bit of a splash from the Scatter Grenade. But I love this build. I use this very, very often on the rare occasion that I go into PvP. And again, it's got my favourite, the Solar Scar. I really have a fondness for this sword. And I finish it off with a Rose. I've got just a nice rapid hit, Vorpal, bit of neutral game. Rose, nothing to write home about. But yeah, this is a nice, solid, comfy loadout for me. I enjoy this one. Over to Peacekeepers. This obviously has been recently reworked. I think it's... I'm going off memory. I think it's now less effective in PvP and more effective in PvE. Maybe a slight balance out. Don't quote me on that. It may not have changed in PvP, but this is a very old build. You can see from the Iron Banner armor. This is something I just whacked on to get me through a week of Iron Banner. Again, Shayura's with Peacekeepers was an absolute menace. I really like my Tears of Contrition. I don't actually know the state of PvP in the sandbox. I don't know if precision frames are any good. I've got no distractions explosive, so I like to imagine it's a bit of a flinch monster, and obviously I can then reduce my own flinch. So for me, this is a very, get in your face, Shayura's and Peacekeepers doing a lot of the work, but I can still, if I'm fighting someone at range, I have a response for that. Sometimes I do switch over to the Long Shadow with a snapshot moving target if I fancy playing a sniper game, but it's been so long since I've sniped, I would be very unreliable with that. But yeah, as you can see, most of the builds I've gone over, I have 100 Resil, 100 Discipline, and I try to get a third stat like Strength as high as I can. The 120 there is a bit of a mess. I don't know what I've done to that. But yeah, these probably need a bit of a review. But let's go and have a look at some of the Prismatic ones I've been putting together. I've got a lot of Prismatic builds because of the class item and all of the combinations you can do with Prismatic. There's a lot of stuff that I've been experimenting with. So, Prismatic One Bang, Peregrines. This is fantastic. When I think it was last episode, I was using the Peregrines and the Le Monarch due to the overload, and I think Imminence was barrier last. Submachine guns were barrier. So this thing was just, it was nuts for dealing with champions in a GM. And if you can get the stun off, this was one-shotting champs. So I remember specifically in the Glassway GM, this was an absolute workhorse. This build was amazing. So I fell in love with this. I did also use it for a couple of solo master lost sectors when I was trying to farm for some drops. I know from master lost sectors you can get double drops, or sorry, double perked world drops. So I was looking for a double perk Crux Termination. So when that was up in rotation, I was using this and I was getting, 3-minute master lost sector clears, depending on the lost sector. Great build, and I really am fond of this one. Haven't used it since last season, but still very fond. The no backup plans. I put this one together for this season. I keep calling them seasons. This episode. We obviously got anti-barrier shotgun, which I was disappointed to find out doesn't work with conditional finality. I was hoping that we could get the unstoppable explosions and freezing from the paracausal pellets, but also with the anti-barrier shotgun, I thought this could be a sort of a one-size-fits-all, but it wasn't to be. No matter, I have switched this out now to a Perfect Paradox. Where is it? The Perfect Paradox. Yeah. So I've got this Perfect Paradox with Trench Barrel, and I've got Enhanced Pugilist on it right now. So yeah, I've been using that instead if I need a barrier. If I do need anti-barrier shotgun, I have actually switched out this conditional. But conditional was great. And obviously pairing it with no backup plans, you get the overshield. And when you have an overshield, you have more damage. This is a really nice build. And it's actually the one build that got me off of the current meta Syntheseps Titan, which I'll go over in a second. So this is probably at the moment my second favourite build. It's really nice to start using some guns again rather than Consecration. Contact Bear. I really tried to make this work. Spirit of the Bear is just bad. I really tried. I put this build together. I put the fashion together. I was really happy with the way this was going. I tried to get, Unbreakable working for me. I tried it once and it just didn't do it for me. I was really hoping, to do... What was even the gameplay loop? I think it was topping off your grenade and your overshields and things using the Unbreakable. Don't even know if it does overshields. But it was topping off your grenades and your super, right? And then when you thunderclapped, you get the jolt from Spirit of Contact. And it was meant to be just a nice add clear survivability mix, but it just didn't really feel good. And I probably will end up deleting this one. I like this with the stoicism and the class items. I like to theory craft and come up with some ideas like, that could be a really cool gameplay loop, but some of them just aren't as potent as you'd like. Prismatic PvE with the Icefall Mantle. This is a build I think I've copied from somewhere that I wanted to try. I was aware that Icefall was doing really well, so I put it with a shotgun and a grenade launcher, and I actually haven't used it. It's something you can see there's no fashion. Normally when I've actually used a build, I'll put the fashion together. This is just something I've put together in Dim and haven't actually used in game, so there's no fashion. Yeah, it just... I don't know, I put it together and I still to this day, as a Titan main, I've never used Icefall Mantle when I really should give it a go. But yeah. Then I've gone with another Mask of the Quiet One build, but this is a Prismatic one. So the previous one we looked at, the Void PvE, that was a purely Void subclass one. I tried to give it another go because, as I said, I've always loved Mask of the Quiet One for fashion and the idea of it. So this is a slightly more updated one, and I've tried to go with more, control, crowd control. I've got Drenger's Lash on instead of Consecration. I've got a Suppressor Nade on instead of a Glacier or a Pulse Nade. I've tried to go for more suppressing and suspending and you know, giving myself an overshield, and with the Graviton Lance trying to sit back a little more and do a bit more, you know, paced gameplay. But yeah, again, I haven't really given this one much time. I took it into a GM, was it last week or the week before, when it was Lightblade, and I thought, okay guys, I'm going to try something new, and I put this on and we wiped in the first room. And I'm not, well, not that it was all the fault of my own build, you know, there's other people in the fire team, but I didn't immediately, I just didn't feel like it was doing as much as some of my other builds. So I had switched back off this one, but I do keep trying because I really want to like Mask of the Quiet One, and I really want to find a build that works. And I think I was on the right lines with Graviton, and maybe having the Catalyst might help. I don't actually know what this Catalyst does. Oh, it gives it Vorpal. So it might not help, but I really, really want to try and find something that works. So actually, if anyone has a Mask of the Quiet One build that I haven't showcased, so obviously I've got a Prismatic-y one and a Voidy one. You know, if you have one that's worked for you, you know, share the dim links in the comments below, or drop me a message, and I'd love to see what you've done with Mask of the Quiet One. This one is one that is featured on my last videos with the solo flawless Vesper. So this is the one I switched to for DPS. So it's got the Anarchy, it's got Indebted Kindness, Lost Signal, Thunder Crash, Caress of the Falling Star. Not a lot to say about this one. It's basically just a lot of Thunder Crash in a short space of time. The mod placement is triple Arc Surge to boost the Kindness and the Anarchy. It's got a couple of resists in there. Most of it is, you know, heavy-handed and hands-on, just to try and top off that super energy and get some orbs. Triple time dilation to give me as much time with these surges as possible. And the Font of Wisdom, which obviously gives me another 30 intellect. So once I've got a armor charge, I've got a, you know, 20... What is this one? Is it 23? Was it 10? It's 10, then it's 17. Ugh, it's 23%, 22%, I think. Damage boost. Oh no, it's right there. 22%. So yeah, 22% damage for 20 seconds with these three. So 20 seconds of that and 20 seconds of 30 intellect. So, you know, once that's going, I've got 100 Resil and 100 intellect. I did drop down to 90 strength, but I'm hoping, you know, with the popping of what is it, transcendence and everything, that you can still get enough consecrations off. And I may even just put a little bit of gameplay over the side here just to showcase this build as well. Down to my hazardous build. This is a DPS build that I use for Salvation's Edge. So this is for the witness fight. I've got the Still Hunt, I've got the Apex Predator, and I've got the hazardous propulsion. So this is basically just getting the sniper off and rotating round to the rocket. This is actually the wrong rocket. I do have another Apex, which is this one with explosive light. So I prefer explosive light in that fight because I'm switching over to the Still Hunt more. And I feel like I get more out of Still Hunt, because then I have to, you know, if I want to get bait and switch going, I have to remember to use the Midnight Coup as well. And the rotation's already bad enough. There's a lot going on here with the suppressor nade. Then you know, you get your where is it? So I can, you know, you throw your shield, you throw your grenades, so you debuff the boss, you buff yourself with Radiant. Then you've got, you know, you get your Still Hunt off, you switch over to that, you pop this when it's up, and you get the rockets going. There's just a lot to this. This is one, if you get it wrong, you can probably get, you know, 1.5 to 2 mil damage. When I've got it right, I mean, I've been up in the 5 to 6 mil range on that boss. So it's a really good build. I've really enjoyed it, and actually I think any of my fire team members that have switched over to Titan have asked sort of to borrow this build and to use it as well. So we've got a few people running this now, which is fun. It is a nice build, and I still have this in game for whenever I do run Salvations. The Star Eater DPS build is probably the first. I think this was the first class item I got when the final shape released. So I got a Star Eater Eternal Warrior. So if you imagine, you pop your Twilight Arsenal, you get a boost to Void Weapons 25%, and obviously your Twilight Arsenal is doing a lot more damage. They have tweaked this now. I don't know if it's giving you anything or if it's just not giving you as much. But yeah, so essentially, you know, you throw your super out, then you just go to town with the edge transit. I've got a cascade bait and switch, mix in some kinetic tremors on the supremacy, and you're doing pretty well. So just a nice void DPS build there. This is my inmost contact build. This is another one of the early class items I got. So inmost light and spirit of contact. Obviously, you don't have the consecration. Sorry, you don't have the syntheseps. So your consecration's not doing as much damage as if you were running a Synthos Titan. But, you know, inmost light and contact, that's really nice ad clear. Pair that with the Kvostov, so you're just, you know, you're chewing up orbs, you're slamming, and I've actually gone with Diamond Lance over Knockout. Most people run Knockout, but I didn't feel like I needed it, and I prefer having the Diamond Lances and some, you know, just something a little bit different in there. But yeah, I still use this build, not as much, but I still have it actually in-game as well, so I can switch to it at a moment's notice. This is one I took, and I believe it was from Sutek, who does a lot of solo flawless GMs. It was the Ergo Psalm with Arc Conductor. This is something I've mentioned in my videos before, and I use this a lot. This is one of my most used builds. Spirit of the Assassin, Spirit of Syntheseps. I am still waiting for Synthos and Heart of Inmost Light. Once I get that, I think this will be replaced, but Assassin's really nice for solo content. You get that Consecration Slam off or a finisher, and you go invisible. You get a little bit of moment just to relax and take a breather. So this is a really nice build. I have actually switched this out in-game. I have this saved in-game, but I have switched this out for the Chill Inhibitor, and occasionally now I switch the Imminence out for something else. I still really like the Imminence, but because subbies are overload right now, I tend to switch this out for a barrier weapon, like a blast furnace or something. But yeah, this is one of my favourite builds, and this, as I mentioned, the no backup plans was my second favourite build. This is the one that just about got me to stop using this, and this Assassin Syntheseps build is my favourite build so far, and it is the meta for the Titan. And the last build to review is the PvP Prismatic build. So I put together, and this is another one of my sort of theory crafted ones where I saw Ophidian and Scars, and I just thought, hey, that's going to be really, really good in PvP. So, you know, final blows with the Judgment. Now, don't judge me. I do love a timed payload moving target on the Judgment. It is just a fun weapon to use. It's not meta. It's not. I don't know, people probably would think, you know, this is madness, but I really, really love this, and I think the way a weapon feels when you're using it goes a long way to how good you are with it. So I really enjoy the Judgment. I really like Slug Shotgun, and I've got this moving target opening shot Ganora's, and then back to the classic Solar Scar. So this is another comfy PvP loadout for me. I go with comfy because I just don't play a lot of PvP, so I really need something that feels good and that I'm pretty comfortable to use. I do have a work in progress one down here as well, which I think I was good. Yeah, Hoarfrost Armamentarium. As I said, I like to theory craft and come up with some stuff. I just figured this would be a really fun replacement for my Hoarfrost Titan, which I had. Where is that now? Strand, Stasis. Yeah, so I ran through this one earlier. That's just one of my favourite builds ever. Always love this one. So you miss out on Howl of the Storm, you miss out on Tectonic Harvest, but I'm wondering if, you know, with the Glacial Quake and the Glacier Nade and, you know, Hoarfrost and Armamentarium, you could do something sort of similar. I also have a Hoarfrost Synthos. So yeah, I'm just theory crafting that one. I haven't really put it together, but, you know, that could be quite fun to put something together and run a prismatic version of my Stasis Titan. And then we'll go over the in-game ones. So my in-game loadouts, I have the Arc is one I use in the dungeon. So this is the pre-boss in the final encounter. So it's still got the Anarchy, Indebted Kindness. It's got Syntho Assassin on there. It's basically my Syntho Assassin build, but it's just switched some of the weapons out for something that gets me through that pre-DPS. This is then the DPS one that I switch to, so I basically switch out for Cuirass, and I switch out for Lost Signal, but the rest stays the same, so I managed to keep the super and everything like that. This is my Void build. Again, I always have loved this Void Heart of Inmost Light Titan. It has stayed on my in-game loadout, and I always go back to it. This is slightly different, as you can see. It hasn't picked up the energy weapon, and it's got a Riptide on there, which is not what is in the dim loadout. But yeah, this is still one of my favourite builds. This is my Pyrogale build. I don't run Pyrogale all the time, so this is something I need access to while I'm in game. If I'm suddenly in a DPS encounter and I need some solar damage, I can quickly switch this one, and I don't have to go back to orbit and apply the loadout. So this one is just there in case I happen to find myself fighting Crota unexpectedly. Stasis, again, this is just my favourite Stasis build. I don't use it very often, but it's just stayed in game. It's just got one of those, it's more sentimentality than anything, but I keep this here just as a reminder of one of my favourite builds. The Strand build is obviously my traversal one. You see in the gameplay of the Vesper's Host dungeon and any other dungeons and raids that I'll switch to this when I'm navigating through the sort of traversal areas. Then I've got a few prismatic ones. So this is my Assassin Syntheseps one. So this is my favourite build. This is the one that I use everywhere. It's slightly more updated than the one that's in dim. So I've got the chill inhibitor instead of the Wendigo. Slightly different fashion, but ultimately at its core it's the same build. And it's still got the Ergo Sum on there. This prismatic build is my other favourite build with the conditional and the no backup plans. Then I have my Still Hunt and Hazardous Propulsion DPS for Salvation's Edge. This one is the second encounter of Salvation's Edge, where I mentioned using the Hazardous Propulsion and the Still Hunt and the sword with actual Strand Titan. And then these last two, I've got the Inmost Light and Spirit of Contact build, and the Inmost Light Star Eater build, which is an updated version of the Star Eater and Eternal Warrior build that I showed earlier, because I'm not using... I've switched out for a chill inhibitor, so I'm not going to be boosting Edge Transit anymore with Eternal Warrior, so I thought I'd get some neutral game from Inmost Light and use chill inhibitor instead. So yeah, that is all of my Titan builds. If you want to see my Warlock and my Hunter, you can see I have way less on there. I don't really play either of these, so it could be quite fun to see. I have a lot of solar on my Warlock. But yeah, so that's the end of this one, and thank you very much for joining. See you next time.